back to Typecast Heroes, where we believe typology can save the world. I'm Amanda Fogelson.
And I'm Jessie Miller, and today we are going to give you guys another update video, and we're also going to talk about the poll for the next data set. So if you've been with us since the beginning, we've talked a lot about how the education data isn't the end, and I understand that not all of the education data has been released, but that will all be released by the end of this year. So by the end of 2021, all of the education videos will be out along with all of the podcasts and all of the data and all of the things. So if you go to our blog, some of them are a little behind, and the podcasts, I think they're about an episode behind, but they will all be updated by the end of this year. So just stick with us for that. But in the meantime, in our last update video that we did in June of this year, we discussed the fact that by September 15th, which is the first official day of fall, we would have the new topics for the next data setup. So there are 3 to choose from, and there's going to be a poll linked below where you guys can vote. And voting will take place over the next probably 2 months. And then what I'm going to be looking for next is for a test set. So for a person of each type to talk to me so that I can get my questions down for what I'm looking for. And then the questioning will begin in January of 2022. Yeah. So then we'll be looking for more volunteers to do the surveys. So we're going to talk about the 3 topics. The first one is probably the number one most requested thing I get asked when people come to talk to us. It's the thing we see in the comments most. But this is how your type affects love and relationships. This is not going to be looking at which type you should end up with. This is going to be more looking at how does each type view love, how does age impact romantic relationships, what are they looking for in romantic relationships, and also looking at the concept of marriage as a whole, as a construct, because marriage is typically, in Western countries, it's like 2 people, right? It's only 2 people, and and they're supposed to be together for the rest of their life.
Yep.
And I wanted to look at how each type viewed that construct in general. So I wanted to track those patterns across the type in that way. So attacking the construct itself, looking at how each type views it to get a little more insight into their mind, and then sharing that information with you guys.
And really, the focus, as Jessie said, it's not going to be, okay, I'm an ENFP, this is the type I should be with, because first of all, we don't believe in that. Mm-hmm. There is not one type for each one type. That's not how the world functions, thank God. But what this is going to do, one thing that we push so huge on this channel is communication and how to communicate better with others, how to understand others, how to how to build authentic, loving relationships with your friends, families, coworkers, and spouses or partners. And so that's more of what this one would dive into. That being said, like Jessie said in the beginning, this is by far the most requested one. I think it's also one of the number one reasons people actually go and search out personality tests. So even though we have 3 options and we kind of have our favorite, we're putting it out here for everyone else to tell us what they would like to hear instead, because why would we just talk about whatever we want to talk about when you guys have things you want to hear? But just keep in mind that it's truly not going to be, you should be with this type. So it's going to be a little bit more in depth, a little bit more, hopefully try to get you to look at yourself more instead of looking external from yourself, deciding who's going to be your best fit.
Mm-hmm. So that's the first topic. And then the second one is probably the next most requested thing that people come to MBTI for, which is careers. Be careful. So here, let me put into the big giant disclaimer. Yeah, I know. I'm like, wait. As soon as that came out of my mouth, I know everybody's gonna be like, "What?" You always say, "Don't put careers." This is what I'm looking at. So I've been thinking about this a lot with people who are trying to find the right career for them, and I do not believe that MBTI should be used for career applications. I don't believe that it should be used for when you are planning your own future. I think typology should always just be used internally, and that's what I've been pushing for a long time. And when you look at big constructs like education or marriage, like the last topic, how each type functions within that construct is really important because of societal views. So bigger picture, so really, really big picture for type or really, really internal picture for type. But I don't see it being super helpful to look at a person and be like, oh, that's your type, this is why you're messed up, or this is why you're broken, or this is why you can't do that job. I don't believe that type should be limiting at all. I think it should be the key to understanding internally and also on the big picture. So the second topic, which is going to be about careers, it's not going to be specifically about what career you should do for your type. What I'm looking at more is how types view vocations, how people view their jobs. Because there are certain types who seem to be more inclined to spend a lot of time in jobs that they don't like in order to hit a bigger goal, because something else has more important to them. And then there are other types that seem a little more prone to choosing the right career is their big focus. And if they can't choose that right one, then they don't feel like they're living up to their potential, and it's really damaging to their ego and to their self-esteem. And so what I wanted to look at was all of these types and how they view vocations, how they view careers, how they view their future, even future planning, because in America, like in American society, there's this big push to choose a career and stick with it until you retire. And when you look at people who are of our generation, there seems to be a lot more job hopping, and that's really frowned upon. And so what I also was interested in is how types would view job hopping in general, and how certain types seem to be more oriented towards that, and I wanted to talk about why that shouldn't be considered a negative thing. So when you see our topic being types and careers, it's not which career, it's analyzing this construct of we live in a society, everybody is supposed to take their part in society. How do each of the types view this system that currently exists?
Yeah, I guess if you ever want to come to a channel where someone's going to tell you exactly who you should marry and what you should do with your life, this is not the channel for you. Because that's never going to happen. You'll never hear that come out of our mouths, honestly. The point is not to put anyone in a box. It's actually to strip down the box and to say, like, here's your freedom. This is who you are. Start understanding more of who you are so you can really choose what's going to make you happy. But that being said, the career, like Jesse said, we're pretty certain will be number 2. When you look in the Facebook groups, when you look at, even when you actually take some of the MBTI tests out there, it's directed at what career you should take. Which, to be very honest, with my own story, if you've been here for a little bit, you know I'm an ENFP, but I test as an ENTJ. And the reason that I didn't fall in love with MBTI or even actually believe in it at all growing up, because I think I took my first test like 16 years old in high school, was because I always tested as an ENTJ, and everything about ENTJs on the internet and all these tests is about being the CEO or being the leader or being the manager, and also kind of being a hard ass. And so it was all directed at career, but it was putting that type into a box of like, this is the only thing that you can be. And all I kept thinking is like, I don't want to be a cold-hearted CEO someday, you know? So that's not what this is going to be. It's going to be really looking at yourself, really trying to figure out what are some of your organic, natural gifts or strengths that could come along with the cognitive functions that are in your type, as well as just being in the workforce, what that looks like, why some people around you may be making the decisions that they're making in their careers that maybe you're not making, or that you don't vibe with, that doesn't resonate with you, or maybe what your society is doing with their careers and your career path looks very different, and why that's going to be completely okay for you to choose that path.
And then the third one is the one that I've been thinking about for a long time, probably even before I envisioned typecast, but it is about self-esteem and body image within typing, within the types. So advertising companies, advertising agencies, they have this tendency to make people feel certain ways about themselves. And what I've noticed within the types, when I was very back at the beginning, figuring out what it meant to be an INFJ for all the 2 seconds that I spent trying really hard to do that. I was not interested in it a terribly long time, but I discovered that there was a huge sensitivity to certain things that came across in ads, in marketing, in campaigns, and certain types were triggered or more sensitive about this than others. And what I think is the way that society is currently oriented, and what the things that in Western culture the advertising agencies and the marketing companies really push, it's triggering and negatively affecting certain types, it seems, in a higher proportion than others. So what I want to do is I want to look at how types view themselves, how types view advertising agencies in general, how they view marketing campaigns, what is their body image like, what is their self-esteem like, and I would like to explore these constructs.
This is actually something that Jesse and I feel like in the beginning of us talking about types in general, even before actually diving into types, just noticing the massive differences between the two of us that we had started recognizing when we were talking every single day on the way to work for years, was just how we viewed ourselves, which I think has actually been probably the number one difference that we noticed very early on in our relationship and have continued to discuss over the years. And I know for me, it was fascinating to hear her side of things. And I know for her, it was crazy to think that other people didn't think the same way she was thinking at the time. And so it was like we had this moment of just like, whoa, there's a big difference here in how we view ourselves, how we would view those around us, and how we would view their perception of us. And did it matter to us? Did it not matter to us? And it really was fascinating. So this would dive into not only your own body image and your own view of yourself and your own perception of yourself and what that means, but also, like Jesse said, actually taking into consideration the advertising and the marketing that are out there. Honestly, this is one of the more fascinating ones between the three choices, in my very humble opinion. But it's up to you guys to decide.
So thank you for watching our update. Please stick around for the remaining education types videos. Please stick around for the Shadow series, which will not start until 2022, but it should kick off.
It's here. Yeah, it will be here.
It should kick off in January or February 2022 because that's when all of the collecting process will happen. So we will be releasing those and promoting types at the time. And basically, that's it for us today, guys, because being human is hard.
And hopefully all of this will make it just a little bit easier, or at least more fun.
And then Amanda, tell them what to do so they can keep up with us.
Like, comment, subscribe, and share. You guys are wonderful. We appreciate you and love you more than you would ever know. But we are on Facebook, Instagram, Reddit, and Discord, as well as YouTube. So you can drop a comment below if you're interested. Be sure to vote in the polls. We'll have polls up, everywhere, on all social media platforms as well. So be sure to actually put out your opinion, because you can't complain if you don't actually vote.
It's true. All right, we'll see you next time.
Let's gather around the type fire and sing our type fire song. Our MBTITYPOLOGY song. And if you feel uncomfortable, then know there's nothing wrong.